Okay, gentlemen, you're both familiar with the rules of the state. Pay attention. I want you to remember two things. I want you to obey my commands and defend yourselves at all times. Now shake hands and come out of the bell.
All right, Gary Stark Jr., trained by his father, Gary Sr., against Juan Carlos Santiago.
Well,
I have a good feeling about this one.
One thing about this fight, Santiago, I know very well. He fought on one of my shows in Texas. He actually trains with Marco Antonio Barrera and Jose Navarro, the Olympian. The dude is real aggressive.
And that could play right into Gary Stark's hands because, as we know, Gary's a real good defensive fighter, real quick, and a nice boxer. Gary Stark very clearly did not want to look at his opponent during the referee's final instructions. Kind of interesting the way some fighters like to stare down their opponents. He didn't want any part of that. He didn't want to look at him.
Stark with unbelievable hand speed at 123 pounds. Santiago will be the bull. Stark the matador. And Santiago aggressive very early.
I mean, I do not doubt that Gary will be able to outbox, outmaneuver, outslick Santiago, but this is an 8-round fight. Can he keep the discipline for 8 rounds? As I said, I know Santiago very well. Horrible record, but I know him very well.
Well, you said he was aggressive, Brian. He's proven that in his first round.
He's going to be like this for 8 rounds.
And Gary is not a big puncher. Does he have the power to get this guy off him?
I don't think he has the power to keep him off. But as I mentioned, the question for me is, do we have the discipline to outmaneuver him for 8 rounds?
Well, you know, Santiago is going to be there for Gary Stark. He just landed that short left hook. Stark working oh so hard on trying to get stronger. There he puts his punches together. There's that New York City speed. And Santiago just laughs and keeps moving forward.
Stark has mastered one thing that so many bigger fighters can't do. After he lands 1, 2, or 3 punches, steps to the side. Much harder to get hit that way. Very good, smart, solid, sound boxing. There you go, right out to the left instead of straight back.
It's almost impossible for your opponent to set and throw a punch and counterpunch.
And Santiago already bleeding from the left eye. There's an uppercut getting in, and Gary Stark steps off the line. He's using his boxing skills early on.
But he has to do that, he has to stay disciplined. He has to keep boxing the guy. Do not worry about the pressure because the guy's going to keep bringing it. He just has to stay disciplined.
And this is Gary Stark's first scheduled 8-rounder.
And sometimes no matter how much shape you're in, the conditioning plays a part if you've never been in there with someone that's in your chest every round.
That short left hook, though, has been working for Stark in the first round. And now Santiago backing up a bit. Gary Stark looks good to start. Round number 2 scheduled for 8 in the super bantamweight division. Gary Stark in black, Juan Carlos Santiago, the Mexican fighter, in black and gold. Stark landed 26 of 29 power shots in the first round. Now they're mixing it up in the center of the ring.
Well, you mentioned Mexican fighter, Gus. Let me touch on one thing. Gary Stark, once you step up in opposition, at 122 pounds, 123 pounds, those small weights, there's only Mexicans there that dominate.
Right.
You got the Marquez brothers. I mean, only Mexican guys that really dominate at that weight.
Santiago starting to slow up a bit. It's been awfully hard for Stark to find opponents in the New York area, and they've had to bring Carlos Santiago in from Nevada. He's, as we mentioned, from Mexico. These are the kind of fighters that Stark will face as he continues to climb up the ranks. Steve.
Yeah, fighters this small are very rarely babied, Gus. Not like heavyweights who can get 20 or 30 wins without really fighting anybody. Gary Stark knows that, but you know, to his credit, he has such confidence in his boxing ability. He wants to move up. He wants to show what he's got. And this kind of pressure, if he's in great condition and is as good a boxer as he thinks he is, he's going to shine tonight.
Stark eats a left hook from Santiago.
They say the nice right hand as well. You mentioned they brought Santiago in from Vegas. As I said, I know him. he was actually in camp with Jose Navarro, Carlos Navarro, the two former Olympic brothers. He's in camp in California training with them, so he's in shape.
And Stark, well schooled on how to fight Carlos Santiago. He slowed him down by throwing that right hand to the body, right under the elbow. And some of the steam has been taken out of Juan Carlos. But Stark doing a lot of moving.
As I said, do we have a discipline and a conditioning for this type of fight? Do not doubt, he's an excellent boxer.
Uppercut, left hook. Beautiful combination for Stark. Then he digs that uppercut right to the body.
Stark's got to be careful not to start trading hooks on the inside with this guy.
Uppercut, left hook again for Stark.
And if I could be stereotypical here for a second, one thing Santiago haven't done is throw that left hook to the body. Most Mexicans dig the left hook to the body.
Round 2 scheduled for 8, the super bantamweight division. Gary Stark in black and silver, Juan Carlos Santiago in black and gold. And they have been rumbling from the very beginning. Exchanging body shots. Santiago trying to split the middle with the uppercut. Stark was there. The end of the second round. Round number 3, scheduled for 8 in the super bantamweight division. Gary Stark in black and gold. His nickname is the Kid against Juan Carlos Santiago. Out of Las Vegas, Nevada. He was born in Mexico City. Stark undefeated at 11-0. And let's take a look at the punches in the second round.
And look at that connect rate for Gary Stark. 48% of his punches. That's an extraordinary connect rate. And that's why I gave him the second round.
I noticed something between rounds. Juan Carlos Santiago was literally slumped on his chair, leaning back, and his trainer was rubbing his legs as if he may be running out of gas. Let's see. Early in the round.
But Gary should keep using those angles, keep moving, and not lay against the ropes. He's a little too square against the ropes as well.
Stark inviting Santiago into the party. Let's see what he can do on the ropes. Conserving energy. Santiago expending a lot of energy. Stark unable to pivot off the ropes. Santiago is keeping him right in front of him.
But that's what he want to do. Actually, that's his best way of winning this fight, because Gary is too slick. Keep him pinned against the ropes and just keep throwing punches.
Brian, you think Stark is fighting on the inside more now because he has to, or because he chooses to?
I think right now he's choosing to. I figured around rounds 5 or 6, he would have had to stay inside. I think right now he's just choosing to. But eventually you have to sit down and show these guys, you know, listen, you're not going to be a bull all night. I think Gary actually had confidence on the inside.
Beautiful uppercut by Stark, followed by a left hook landing by Santiago. These two little men are really throwing a lot of punches in this bout.
Let's go.
Now Randy Newman steps in and tells Gary Stark to watch using his head.
Yeah, well, what happened there is they were in tight, and Santiago just playfully tapped Stark on top of the head. Stark didn't like it and pushed him. No harm, no foul.
Yeah, beautiful left hook. And Santiago applauded.
Yeah, I like what Gary just did there. He threw 2 short jabs, touched him on the top of the head. He invited Santiago in. The minute Santiago stepped in, he threw a hard left hook.
Lead right hand connecting for Stark. His hands are awfully low now, though.
Boy, Stark is so much more effective when he's using the ring in ring center.
Confuses him so much.
End of the round. All right, round number 4 scheduled for 8 in the super bantamweight division. Gentlemen, how do you have it scored so far?
I have a 3-zip for Gary Stark.
Same here, 30-27 for Gary.
Let's take a look at the CompuBox numbers. Stark has landed 54% of his punches, only 19 for Juan Carlos Santiago. Santiago continues to move forward. He's been the aggressor, and Gary Stark has been the matador.
Now, what's so special about those punch stats to me? A young fighter who throw a lot of punches and a high connect percentage, that's real special.
And it's good that he has a high connect percentage, Gary Stark, because he's not a big puncher. And he's going to have to depend on accuracy and depend on volume punching.
Now fighting a tough Mexican fighter like Juan Carlos Santiago, you generally don't see these guys getting dropped by getting hit on the chin. Normally, you have to attack the body if you're Gary Stark.
Beautiful left hook right hand by Stark, real quick. Just back out on that angle.
Stark in the early rounds attacked the body a lot more than he has in the last two. Let's see if he gets back to it as this fight continues, scheduled for 8. And Santiago has slowed down considerably.
And he showed, just now in the show, he got inside, he did nothing, Gary just pushed him off. So right there, he's not throwing punches. So it's real obvious that he slowed down, Gus.
Continues to try to bully Stark, though. 1 minute and 14 remaining in the 4th round.
Never one shot at a time for Gary Stark either, always in combination.
And to be aggressive and just come at Gary Stark, you're not going to be successful that way. You could tell who the crowd was.
And no doubt, Stark fighting in his backyard. Beautiful combination.
Nice body shot.
Ending with a body shot. Now Stark again trying to put punches together and steps off.
Well, as we've seen in that opening, Gary had a knockout his last fight out with body shots. He can attack the body real well.
The body shots worked for him early against Juan Carlos Santiago. That's why Santiago is slower right now, I would say. Lead right hand gets in. Gary Stark looking impressive so far. Round number 5, Stark outlanded Santiago 35-7 in the 4th round, but rounds 5 through 8 are the money rounds. And this is the first time Gary Stark has gone 8 rounds, or is scheduled to go 8 rounds.
He just got caught with a nice left hook on the chin by Santiago.
Stark showing that he can fight on the outside and the inside. Santiago is an inside fighter. As you take a look at the total punches through round 4, overwhelming advantage for Stark, landing 49%.
Boy, 146 connects in 4 rounds is a lot.
Versus 19% for Juan Carlos Santiago, a Mexican-born fighter who right now fights out of Las Vegas, Nevada. 8-5-1 with 2 knockouts.
I think what Brian said earlier is really the key here for Gary Stark as he develops. This is an 8-round fight. He has to show the focus for all 8 rounds. He's never been 8 before, and he's in with a guy who's going to come press him the whole 8 rounds. This is something he's really never seen before as a pro, and it's a great test for him, for a young fighter who's emerging. And Gary Stark's not going to be babied. He can't be babied, not at this weight. There are very, very few easy opponents for him to take.
Actually, the champ of his weight, in my opinion, the man of his weight, aside from Larios, is Juan Guzman.
Oh, Juan Guzman's an excellent fighter. And a little too big for Gary Stark, because Guzman's he's talking about jumping from Gary's weight, 122, all the way to junior lightweight. Showbox Discovery, by the way, we go on Guzman if I may blow my own horn there.
Actually, he was my sparring partner for years. He used to beat me up in the gym.
Yeah, he's a tough guy.
I have no shame of that.
Round number 5, Stark taking this round off. Juan Carlos Santiago remaining aggressive.
But I would like to take a closer look at that, Gus. You said he's taking a round off. I would like to take a look and see if he's losing focus. Or if he's really taking a round off.
Nice uppercut getting through for Stark with the right hand. Now Stark with the left hook.
And Stark is starting to box with his mouth wide open, perhaps a sign of fatigue.
That is a sign of fatigue. He's never gone 8 rounds. 6 has been his magic number so far in his career.
Sorry, but aside from that, if you have a guy pressing you, 4 rounds can seem like 8 and 10 rounds. So for Gary, this is not a traditional, he's not in the traditional 5th round right now.
End of the 5th round. In black and silver, and Juan Carlos Santiago in black and gold. Tonight's CompuBox stats are brought to you by LocateStock.com, the pioneer in electronic stock locates.
158 power punches through round 5. Gary Stark is landing more than half the punches he's throwing the power shots. Incredible. But when you punch in combination, you don't load up, you tend to land more of your shots.
Now Stark digging to the body. Santiago answers. Santiago looks like he's growing stronger now. Left jab getting through for Stark. He goes to the left hook and then brings it up top. Big right hand for Stark, and Santiago may be in a little trouble. Another left hook for Stark. Both men winging in the center of the ring.
I don't like this exchange for Gary because when he's punching, he's doing power punching, he's leading forward. All his power is on his front foot. So if he gets caught, he can actually get knocked down.
135 remaining in the 6th. Stark throwing some big shots in this round. There's another left hook. Lead right hand gets in for Stark.
A little bit less movement from Gary Stark this round. He's slowing down a little bit.
Maybe he's just pacing himself. He knows he's got to go 8. He's never gone 8. Here in the 6th. Santiago continues to press.
Gary just got caught, a nice right hand on the chin.
Stark looking over at his corner.
They're employing him to box, but the question is he fatigued, Gus?
I think it's a combination. He's fatigued and he's fighting a man that has fought him in his chest the entire 6 rounds. So there's only so many places you can go. Sometimes you gotta stand there, as you know, Brian, and fight. And that's what Gary Stark is doing.
Well, Santiago only 2 career knockouts. That's come into play here because he's starting to land more and more.
He's right in his chest.
Beautiful uppercut for Stark. Round number 7, scheduled for 8 in the super bantamweight division. Gary Stark in black and silver landed 31 power shots in the 6th round.
Well, thus far, I mean, I gave Santiago that last round. I thought the aggression, he did some nice things. I thought he forced the issue. Right now is 59-55 in Gary Stark's favor on my card.
How about you, Steve?
I have it the same way, 5 rounds to 1 for Stark.
And watching those replays, after every exchange, ended exchange, Santiago ended up in Gary Stark's chest.
How tough, Brian? How tough is it to go the distance you've never been before, even if you know you're in shape and you're confident?
It's tough when you're fighting an opponent such as Santiago, an opponent that's in your face, really not giving you time to breathe. That's hard. But when you have it your way, when you go the distance the first time, there's no, it's no big deal to you. But he should come away real confident with a performance like this. He took an aggressive guy, he fought, he boxed, and he went the distance.
Still don't like the way Gary Stark is throwing that right hand, Brian.
He's leaning in a lot. Like I said, power His power's on his front foot. He missed bad, he get caught, he can get knocked down. He's starting to fall in a little too much for me right now. Could be fatigue.
Gus Johnson, Brian Adams, Steve Farhood from the legendary Grand Ballroom at Manhattan Center in New York City. This is Broadway Boxing, where we're proud to feature the up-and-comers in the New York metropolitan area. Ironically, the world's most famous arena is right across the street. And one day, some of these young men will be fighting there.
That's the dream.
Gary Stark hopes to be one of those young men. 50 seconds to go in the 7th round. Uneventful 7th round so far.
And as Stark moves up in class, which he began to do tonight with this opponent, I don't doubt that he has the boxing skill to compete at a world-class level. The question is, will he be strong enough when he fights guys pressuring him? Will he hit hard enough to gain their respect? That will be the question about Gary Stark down the road.
He's back to boxing, back to throwing combinations. Does a matter of the fatigue setting in, which I think it is.
There's not a lot on his punches right now.
End of the 7th round, scheduled for 8. Gary Stark, Juan Carlos Santiago. Stark threw 55 punches. His low for the fight in the 7th round, so he is getting a little winded. As the fans try to get him motivated to get through the 8th round. As you take a look at the total punches through 7, Stark has landed 47%, to only 17 for Juan Carlos Santiago.
First half of the fight, Gary was landing well over 50%. That number's dropping a bit. His output is coming down a bit.
What a valuable learning experience, though, for this kid, because we've seen him on Broadway Boxing before. I haven't seen him in a fight like this before. And he's probably learning more in this 8 rounds than he had, learning more about himself, than he has in his previous 3 or 4 or 5 fights.
Stark coming along according to plans. He is a boxer. That's his strength, and he showed plenty of that this evening. He also showed the fortitude to be able to stand in the middle of the ring when he needed to and fight.
And that he will need down the road, because if he's not tough in this division, with all the Mexicans and Thai champions there are, it'll show.
Well, at this weight, most boxers, they pretty much have to stand in there from time to time, because especially pure boxers, they're considered, weak, no heart, because they box. So time to time, a pure boxer have to stand in there to show these people, listen, I can fight also.
Stark trying to push his record to 12-0. Juan Carlos Santiago has been a formidable opponent for him this evening. Stark is given and he's taken. Great right hand.
Santiago right back in his chest.
Santiago, not much of a technician. He is a fighter, a brawler. But Stark has not allowed him to impose his will. Another right hand by Stark.
And I know what's going through Gary's mind right now. You hear all these tales about Mexican guys being tough, they don't take a step backwards. And the first time, you don't really believe that, but the first time you fight one, you're like, wow. It happened to me. I heard all the tales of Mexicans, they're tough. The first time I fought one, hit him with everything, never backed up. I'm like, those tales are true.
And credit Joe Chiambo, World DiBella Entertainment's matchmaker. This is exactly the kind of fight that Gary Stark needed at this point in his career.
If you want to develop him properly.
Right.
Stark continuing to go. And that's it. Gary Stark goes 8 rounds.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 8 rounds of boxing, we go to the judges' scorecards. But first, a round of applause for the Warriors. Judge Tommy Kazmarek has it 79-73. Larry Hazard Jr. 80 to 72, and Robin Taylor 80 to 72 for the winner by way of unanimous decision, Gary Kidd.